Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, I thought that I would do this little video. Now, we're going to review a video by this one channel named Chronicles of Judah 144. I like this guy's channel. I don't agree with everything that he says, but when it comes to his sports takes, especially his takes about LeBron James, I end up usually agreeing with his takes. It's very important to view some of this man's takes, I believe, when it comes to LeBron James, especially because it is very easy for a lot of people to get brainwashed by the media when it comes to LeBron James. You have people out there like Nick Wright, Shannon Sharp, Colin Cowherd, Max Kellerman, and a certain amount of others that always love to push LeBron James. Who's another one? Who's that one dude from Ohio? Chris somebody. I can't remember his name. But anyways, but when it comes down to it, we're going to review this video. And the reason why I wanted to review this video is because me and one of my friends, we were having a discussion about a week ago, or maybe a little bit less than a week ago. Anyways, it was sometime within the past week. And we were talking about MVPs. And we were talking about who the NFL MVP should be this year. Personally, who do I think it should be? I think it should be either Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes. Now, of course, what most people would tell you is that, well, how can Patrick Mahomes even be in the argument? It should be Aaron Rodgers, no doubt about it. Well, of course, they say that because the NFL has been riding Aaron Rodgers for the past, I don't know how many years. And it's the same thing with LeBron James. They're always trying to throw these guys a bone when they don't necessarily deserve it. Now, is that me saying that Aaron Rodgers does not deserve the MVP this year? That's not what I'm saying at all. But when it comes down to it, Aaron Rodgers is usually going to have more of a chance than a lot of other people or a lot of other possible MVP candidates because Aaron Rodgers is a favorite by the NFL for whatever reason that is. But when it comes down to it overall, it's the same thing with LeBron James. The NBA and the media, they are always going to try and give LeBron James the MVP no matter what because they are in love with this man. It is what it is. So when we had a discussion, me and my friend, bottom line is this. The conversation eventually came to, well, what about the NBA MVPs? Because the conversation came down to someone was angry that Aaron Rodgers is getting the MVP over Derrick Henry. In my opinion, do I think Derrick Henry should win the MVP? I could see why some people would think that he should win the MVP, but in my personal opinion, no. It is what it is. And they say, well, you might as well just call it the quarterback award because it mainly just goes to quarterbacks. And they are correct. It does mainly just go to quarterbacks. But there's a reason for that because without a decent quarterback, you're not really going to have that successful of a team unless you have such a well-rounded team. It is what it is. I mean, Derrick Henry overall is a very great player. Make no mistake about it, but the Tennessee Titans are a very decently complete team. One thing I will say about Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers is this. They have a very complete team now as well. But without Aaron Rodgers, they don't go 13-3. It is what it is. And without Derrick Henry, maybe the Titans lose a couple games. It's also possible, in my opinion, that they go 10-6 or possibly 11-5. But I can assure you, without Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers are not going 13-3. And without Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs are not going 14-2. But anyways, so I got to this discussion and I said, well, that's kind of the reason why I like the NBA MVPs. Because the NBA MVPs, it can be anyone that gets it at any position, And my friend, who's a LeBron James fan, said, well, I personally don't agree with the NBA MVPs and the NBA awards. And eventually it all came down to his regular thought of, well, LeBron James should really get the MVP every single year. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the NBA MVP and any MVP in any sport is a regular season award. All right? That's all it is. No, LeBron James has not deserved the MVP in quite a while. It is what it is. And Judah is here to talk about that. So let's just see overall what he has to say. Paul Pierce overall is going to tell some truthful things here. And I don't always agree with what Paul Pierce has to say. He's gotten quite a bad rap as a analyst, but it is what it is. He does say some truthful things here and there. Let's just see what they have to say, and I'm going to bring up my points as well.
All right, man, peace. So for those of us who've been following the NBA for at least 15 years now, we know that LeBron James and Paul Pierce have a very long and storied history. They were once rivals in the NBA. Paul Pierce is now retired. We know that both he and LeBron James will be first ballot Hall of Famers when their time comes. Paul Pierce and his Boston Celtics were able to eliminate LeBron out of the playoffs in 2008 and 2010, after which LeBron decided that he was going to go to the Miami Heat. And in 2011 and 2012,
And let me tell you this, because a certain amount of the Michael Jordan versus LeBron James conversation is going to come up in this video. Do I believe that LeBron James is the greatest player of all time? Absolutely not. And a certain amount of people, of course, are going to allege that I hate LeBron James. The friends that love LeBron James, that are friends of mine, overall, when I say that, of course, always allege that I hate LeBron James. I don't hate LeBron James. But people have massively overrated this man for quite a while. It is what it is. Anyway.
Heat were able to eliminate Paul Pierce and his Boston Celtics. Paul is clearly very exasperated in his new turn as an NBA commentator with what he perceives to be, and what very clearly is, in my view as well, the over-exaltation of LeBron James is not enough to just appreciate his greatness as a basketball player.
I agree. Meaning what? I agree overall that basically they're over-infatuated with him. And that's what fanboys do. And you're going to see a very big LeBron James fanboy on this set named Brian Windhorse. Anyway.
Liberal sports media has to constantly lavish him with all this praise and make up excuses to concoct and create new awards to give him, because they realize that he's not going to win any more championships unless...
Well, he ended up winning one more championship, which is great, which is the thing overall that to me mainly matters. All right? Now, what did the LeBron James fans try to say? They tried to say, well, the championships don't matter. Well, the championships don't seem to matter until LeBron James wins. Then all of a sudden, he's the best player in the league again when he won the championship. Well, I thought the championship didn't matter. So is Giannis Antetokounmpo the best player in the league right now, or is it LeBron James? Because is it only the stats that matter, or is it combining them? All right? It is what it is.
Everybody gets hurt. And they also know that he's not going to win any more MVP awards because many of the other more prominent stars in the NBA are leading their teams in a better fashion and are helping their teams in a more proficient way. Yes, LeBron.
At least in the regular season. So it is what it is. All the MVP award is who had the most, stellar regular season, and that's any sport. So LeBron James, has he had a more stellar season than Giannis Antetokounmpo has the past couple of seasons? No, he has not. Did he have a more stellar regular season than Stephen Curry did in 2015 and in 2016? No, he did not. Did he have a more stellar season than Russell Westbrook? That 1 year Russell Westbrook was averaging a triple-double and led his team to 50-something wins, I believe, and led them to the playoffs? No, I don't believe he did. Did he have a more stellar season than James Harden when James Harden won something around 64, 65 games that year, and LeBron James's Cleveland Cavaliers weren't even within the top 3 of that conference that year? In the Eastern Conference? No, I don't think he did. It is what it is. And what my friend said, what he retorted with, is that, well, excuse me, overall, I just think the more impactful player is the one overall who should win the MVP. That's just my opinion. Well, what my friend needs to realize is that the more impactful player is going to win more games. Once again, the MVP is just a regular season award. All right? It is what it is. The most impactful player title goes to the person that's going to win the championship. But they don't count those, and we know damn well why they don't count those, because LeBron James, the majority of the time, is not going to win the NBA championship. Now, has he won a good amount of championships? Of course, he's won 4 NBA championships. But he's also 4-6. So it is what it is.
Puts up great statistics because he is a great player. But at this stage in his career, he is so accustomed to playing in the LeBron James system that he can't play with any other stars. And I don't think that people realize that right now. They don't grasp that anymore. He's going to try it next year. He may try to.
Well, he was able to play with Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis overall was the only one able to work with him. And it's very hard to fuck up having the partnership of Anthony Davis because although Anthony Davis lacks the correct leadership, Anthony Davis overall does have a great amount of talent. There is no doubt about that. I mean, you're talking about a 7-footer overall that has great shooting ability, great athleticism, great shot selection. Anthony Davis is really a freak of nature. So, even with how little he is going to get the ball now, at least compared to what he used to, Anthony Davis is still going to be a statistical and a athletic monster. So it is what it is.
Go to Houston, or he may try to team up with Kevin Durant and maybe Paul George with the Lakers. Who knows? But I just don't see his style of play being conducive to working around other.
You know what I wonder? I wonder had Kevin Durant joined the Cleveland Cavaliers. I wonder if Kevin Durant would be known as a snake today. Because as we all know, Kevin Durant is a known snake when he joined up with the Golden State Warriors. You know, the Warriors that lost in 2016 and needed probably something new in order to win the championship in 2017. Kevin Durant is a snake for joining that team. But LeBron James apparently is not a snake for joining up with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. You know, he's not a snake for creating his own super team with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. He's not a snake for probably having the most talented team in the league in the league today with himself and Anthony Davis and a certain amount of other very good role players. But anyway,
prominent players.
And don't get me wrong, LeBron James has received a certain amount of criticism for that in the past, especially when he joined with Miami. But today, it's like LeBron James can do no wrong. And I don't have a problem with LeBron James joining up with whoever. I really don't care. But the LeBron James fans and the media had no problem with Kawhi Leonard allegedly joining LeBron James overall, on the LA Lakers when they thought that was going to happen. But when Kevin Durant was going to re-sign with the Golden State Warriors, his ring shouldn't even be counted. Those are fake rings because you didn't do any work for them. But if LeBron James would have had himself, Anthony Davis, and Kawhi Leonard on the LA Lakers, how many LeBron James fans would we hear bitch and complain about that? Not very many, I can assure you.
But anyway, that brings me back to Mr. Paul Pierce, who got annoyed with Brian Windhorst, the resident LeBron James fanboy on ESPN, when Brian Windhorst basically stated that he can't believe that LeBron James is not going to get any recognition for the great season that he's had this year. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Now, did you hear overall what he just said? That LeBron James was going to get no recognition for the thing over. ESPN is literally sucking this dude's dick on a daily. LeBron James not only gets enough recognition, he gets way over the top recognition. He gets way too much recognition when it comes down to the overall. I mean, this dude, I literally see this dude on my Facebook wall every single day. Even days he's not playing. There's always some new stat that they're bringing up about LeBron James that they never came up with any other player. LeBron James is the only person ever to score a triple-double while being 6'8", while eating Taco Bell on the sidelines. Like they're always making some new statistic, some stupid-ass statistic to always praise this man. And he is a very great statistical player. But to me, overall, when it comes down to it, and he is great in his own right, he has won championships. But there's a reason why he's 4-6. All right? And you do have to be great statistically, but you also have to impact your team successfully enough to win in the NBA Finals. All right? And LeBron James is 4-6 for a reason. Now, of course, what the LeBron James fans will tell you is that, that's because LeBron James has had no help. That's not true. All right? And we're going to go through that a little bit later on as well.
So LeBron did that yesterday, and it's only been just one of a season of spectacular dunks. How about this one on Evan Fournier from January 6th? On December 16th, we also had the alley-oop, left hand against the Jazz. This is his 15th season. Come on.
Absolutely. He's had some phenomenal dunks this season. What's funny, though, is that I remember when he first went back to the Cleveland Cavaliers, he could barely dunk. And then he took that little time off, went back to Miami, came back looking like the Incredible Hulk, and he was jumping out the gym again. I wonder what happened.
Played every game.
And if you don't know what he's alleging, by the way, you're going to come to find out that Judo overall loves to use the word allegedly. What he's alleging is that he believes LeBron James is taking steroids. Do I believe that LeBron James overall has been taking steroids? Most likely. But I'm not going to overall sit here and completely accuse him of that because I can't necessarily prove that. Do I believe, with my logical mind overall, that LeBron James is most likely taking some? Yes. But my logical mind also tells me that pretty much the rest of the league is doing this as well. But it is what it is.
This is supposed to decline, but it seems like his is going up.
Oh, we have...
Paul Pierce, what are you really saying, brother? Paul Pierce said, this is the time when your athleticism is supposed to decline, but it seems like his is going up. Paul Pierce, what are you really saying? Yeah, it's so funny. I laugh to myself when I hear Paul Pierce or Kevin Garnett make those type of statements because they both say that all the time about LeBron. They say, wow, LeBron's athleticism is going up at 33. That's never been seen before. What are they really saying about LeBron James? This is why I liken LeBron unto the Lance Armstrong of basketball. For LeBron's sake, he better hope that his career does not end in the same way that Lance Armstrong's career came to an end.
We haven't even showed the Nurkic one. Can we show the Nurkic one? You know we're going to show the Nurkic one.
I remember the All-Star game dunk that he caught backwards. I was like,
That's the best dunk of the year right there.
whoa.
He also hit a 30-footer yesterday to win the game, basically.
All right, so again, LeBron is doing all of this in his 15th year in the league. That has literally never been done before. He's putting up better numbers in some categories than he did in his MVP.
And one thing you'll hear that the LeBron James fans always love to say is, well, this is his 15th year. Shouldn't he get extra credit because this is his 15th year and he's able to compete with a lot of these guys? Well, has anyone else gotten that treatment before? Have you seen, any other player just because they were able to compete with them at a certain age and they were able to compete with the younger player overall that they just got the MVP award pretty much out of sympathy? That doesn't usually happen, but with LeBron James, it has to happen because we have to give LeBron James, consolation prize. Like, fuck all that. It is what it is. This is why the LeBron James fan base really annoys me. They are very entitled. And when it comes down to the overall, they just love to give LeBron James things that he truly does not deserve. It is what it is. It's whatever. And that's pretty much what all major fanboys are like. And, an athlete that reminds me of this is Aaron Rodgers. The Aaron Rodgers fan base is very, very similar. All right, and one thing you'll notice is that if you have a person that likes the NFL and likes Aaron Rodgers, if they also watch the NBA, they're going to like LeBron James. And if you have a person that likes the NBA and likes LeBron James, they're also, if they watch the NFL, they're also going to love Aaron Rodgers. All right? And for example, like who? Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp is in love with both of those people. So it is what it is because they're stat geeks. And don't get me wrong, stats are very important. But impact is always going to triumph over statistics, especially when a person is great statistically and they have greater impact. Like, we can sit here and take a look at Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady and say, well, Aaron Rodgers has a greater touchdown to interception ratio, and overall Aaron Rodgers has a greater passing percentage and all sort of stuff, But it's not like Tom Brady is terrible statistically. When you take a look at Tom Brady is also great statistically, and he just wins more than Aaron Rodgers. Now, whatever you want to allege, whether it be overall, well, Tom Brady had Bill Belichick, he had this, well, that's great. And if you're alleging that Aaron Rodgers would have been the one successful instead of Tom Brady had the roles been switched, whatever, I get it. But the bottom line is this, that just never happened. So we can't put Aaron Rodgers above Tom Brady off of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. That's the bottom line. I don't work off of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I work off of what happened and what is. But it is what it is.
The award years. So last night, our Brian Windhorst emails me and he's talking about how crazy it is that there's no real way to recognize this, right? Because of the year that James Harden's had, you kind of have to give him MVP. And I have to tell you guys, I almost dropped my phone.
No, you don't have to give James Harden the MVP. You must give him the MVP because he is the MVP.
I agree. Now, when me and my friend were having this conversation, he was saying, well, LeBron James is the more complete player than James Harden, and I agree with that. But what he said is that, well, all James Harden can do overall is just score. Well, that's not completely true because James Harden at that time was averaging over 30 points per game, I believe. He also was averaging about 8 rebounds and 9 assists. Now, LeBron James was averaging slightly more rebounds and slightly more assists. But what? Just because LeBron James averages slightly more in those categories, that means that James Harden is just this person that can't pass at all or can't rebound nearly on the same level? The problem is this. They were similar statistically. And if you take a look at every statistic, yes, LeBron James edged out James Harden probably by a little bit. But the problem is this. There was one reason why James Harden won the MVP over LeBron James as well. Not only because he got great statistics, but the main reason is because he won more than 10 games over LeBron James and in the more competitive conference. So it is what it is. When you're similar statistically and you win more games by a decent amount, then that's a problem. And then you can't win the MVP. It is what it is. Now, what my friend brought up is that, well, then you must think that Patrick Mahomes is the MVP over Aaron Rodgers. You can debate that Patrick Mahomes is the MVP over Aaron Rodgers. But I don't have a problem with Aaron Rodgers being the MVP because pretty much in every category, Aaron Rodgers had a great statistical season over Patrick Mahomes. Patrick was great statistically this season as well, but Aaron Rodgers overall did outdo him. But the difference is this: Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, their winning percentage or the amount of wins that they have, it's a difference of one game. Now, if the Packers would have been, say, 11-5 and the Chiefs would have been 14-2, then I'd say, okay, yeah, most likely Patrick Mahomes deserves the MVP. But when it comes down to the overall, since it's 13-3 versus 14-2, then overall that's, Aaron Rodgers is most likely going to get it. But when it comes down to it, I mean, when you take a look at James Harden versus LeBron James, it was a difference of 10 plus games. That's the problem. Like James Harden and the Houston Rockets, not only was he having a phenomenal statistical season, he was number one. His team was number one in the Western Conference that year. They had the best record in the whole entire league. All right? LeBron James, I don't even know if his team was third in the Eastern Conference that year. All right? Like, that's that was the difference. And yet people try to overall say that, oh, James Harden robbed LeBron. He didn't rob him of shit. James Harden deserved the MVP that year. That's just the bottom line.
When you make statements like you have to give him the MVP, what you're implying is that you don't really want to.
Well, they don't. And Judah knows that. ESPN has been riding LeBron James's dick for I don't know how many years now. It is what it is.
It's not your job to give the MVP or not give the MVP to players based on whether you want to or not. It's your job to give the MVP to the most deserving player. The most deserving player this season is James Harden.
Agreed.
Oh, and I was so excited because I got to type in back. Aha! Are you, Brian Windhorst, coming around to my campaign that the NBA needs to do what the NFL does, needs to do what hockey does, and have 2 awards, one for best season, which would of course go to James Harden, and
Well, I don't know if the NFL, and I don't really watch hockey, I don't know if the NFL really has a best player award. It's not like they have a separate award for that, from what I know. It is what it is. I mean, is there a difference between the best player and the MVP? Yeah, sure. But you don't want to do that because you want to signify to a certain amount of the audience that the MVP is the best player. So there's a little bit of nuance. Because if the same person keeps winning the MVP over and over and over, that's just not gonna it's not gonna do extremely well for ratings. It is what it is. And I do believe that the MVP is, correct. I believe it's fine for the regular season. That's just good for ratings. But when it comes down to the overall, I don't believe that that's a good idea. And I think Judah would agree with me. But it is what it is to have 2 separate awards like that. But anyway.
hey, one's for just who's the best player in the NBA, and Brian said,
So last year when you were doing this, I supported you, but I really wasn't invested in it. But I supported you.
That is such a slap in the face. If they
I agree.
were to create an award called Best Player and then another one for Best Season, what you're telling the player who won the award for Best Season is that, yes, you just happen to have a very nice season, but you're not the best player.
I agree. Now, of course, that might be the case, but when it comes down to the overall bottom line is this, you kind of want to let the audience, at least in my opinion, you want to let the audience kind of at least insinuate that maybe they're the best player that season just because there's a little bit of nuance. I don't think that, I think they would lose a certain amount of interest to people if the same person just gets the MVP year after year after year, especially if it's a person that's not winning the championship consistently like LeBron James. Like that's not going to do very well. Now if you have the same person winning championships over and over again, that seems to always do well because people love dominance. But if you have a person that's winning the MVP every single season, and especially he's not winning the championship, that's not that's not going to do very well. Anyway.
But these liberal idiots in the mainstream sports media, they're so dead set on making sure that they exalt LeBron James because even they understand that his time is coming
Agreed.
to an end. That they
Well, we'll see. Because as of right now, overall, LeBron James looks like he could get his 5th championship this year. Right now, I think LeBron James is in the same category as a Magic Johnson. If he were to win his 5th, I'd still probably say that he'd be right there with Magic. But if he wins a 5th, I could put him over Magic. And a certain amount of people overall, say Magic Johnson. How can you put Magic Johnson above LeBron James? I can do a separate video on that. But when you take a look at everything, if you really know basketball, and once again, I'm not a basketball aficionado, but I know enough. Magic Johnson and LeBron James are at least in the same category. It is what it is. Then the next category, you sort of had the Bill Russells, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, and the Michael Jordans. Those guys are on the next level. So it is what it is.
want to make up any excuse to still give him some form of exaltation that he does not deserve. LeBron is an all-time great player, first ballot Hall of Famer, top 10 on my list. But he should get MVP awards when and if he deserves them.
Agreed.
There should not be a new award created just to honor him.
I can't, in good conscience, not vote for James Harden for MVP. He meets all the criteria. He absolutely should have my vote. But I am having difficulty with not honoring LeBron James.
So what are you basically admitting there, Brian? What you're basically admitting is that I'm a LeBron James fanboy and I really want to give the trophy to LeBron James. That's basically what you're saying. Once again, it's not a good thing to be a fanboy or a fangirl. You want to be as logical and objective as possible. It is what it is. Because being a fanboy will lead you to stupid ass shit like this. I've met a certain amount of fanboys. I've done a certain amount of videos on Deontay Wilder fans. And I posted this one video where I reviewed a video. There was this one dude named Drew Titan. And one thing that I pointed out that he kept saying was that my guy lost. My guy lost. My guy lost. Now, what I will say about myself is this. I tend to be a fan of sports, but I'm not a fan of individuals, because when you're a fan of individuals, that leads to very unhealthy things, and overall that leads you to not being logical and objective. Really, being a fan of almost anything is risky because that can lead you to not being logical and objective. But the reason why I say I'm a fan of sports, and the reason why overall, I say I'm a boxing fan and a certain amount of other things, is because I think entertainment is necessary, and I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing to be a fan of sports. That means that you're a fan of entertainment, and entertainment is necessary. So it is what it is. But that being said, overall, I don't think it's a good thing to be a fan of individuals. You want to stay logical and objective inside the sports. It is what it is.
Some way. And I would also look back. He's not going to win the MVP this year.
Yes, because he doesn't deserve to.
Agreed.
It will have been 5 years since he won his last MVP.
Well, it's been 5 years since he deserved to win. Because in 2014, Kevin Durant had a better year than him. In 2015, Steph Curry had a better year than him. In 2016, Steph Curry had a better year than him. In 2017, James Harden and Russell Westbrook had a better year than LeBron James. And this year, James Harden is having a better year than LeBron James.
Agreed.
That's what that is called, Brian.
And what people said overall, and now you know it's LeBron James fans are sort of turning it around, which I knew they would, because LeBron James fans are never consistent in their arguments. They just kind of go with the flow at the time. Because now they're saying LeBron James should have been the MVP last season. Well, LeBron James deserves the MVP because look at what he did in the postseason. He won the championship. The Milwaukee Bucks can even make it out of the second round. Well, that'd be okay. And that'd be fine if you're going to argue that overall consistently. But what they've been consistently arguing for the past I don't know how many years is that it's not about the championships, it's about the statistics. That's overall what they've been arguing. That's overall what they've been arguing is who's the more impactful player statistically. That's all they care about. Now all of a sudden it's about championships when your boy finally wins a championship? Is that how it works? Because Giannis Antetokounmpo, I believe, was statistically greater than LeBron James last season. Now, I could be wrong about that. I'd have to look it up. But I know there was at least a season or two where Giannis Antetokounmpo was greater statistically than LeBron James. Had more points per game, had more rebounds per game, did it on higher efficiency, higher field goal percentage. Definitely had better defense at this point in time in his career. And he won more games than LeBron James. So, once again, when it comes down, is it the statistics that matter? Or is it overall the postseason success that matters? Which one is it? Because the more impactful player, is usually going to lead them to good championship chances or overall win the championship. That's really what the most impactful player is about, winning the championship. So it is what it is.
Horst. They were the MVP for that season. They're having a better year than him. Do I believe that LeBron James is a better all-around player than those players? Yes. That does not mean that there should be a new award concocted for him.
I agree. It's the same thing like when you take a look at the NFL like last year. Lamar Jackson was the MVP of last year. Russell Wilson, in my opinion, is a better all-around quarterback than Lamar Jackson. Aaron Rodgers is a better all-around quarterback than Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes certainly is a better all-around quarterback than Lamar Jackson. Does that mean that any of those guys deserve the MVP last year of Lamar Jackson? In my opinion, no. Because Lamar Jackson had a more stellar regular season than any of those guys. And that's all the MVP is. So it is what it is.
That's not how that works, sir.
And he has been the best player in the league over those 5 years. I don't think there's any question about that. How can we, as voters, how can we look at ourselves in a historical context and say that we have not given LeBron James an MVP in this 5-year stretch?
Very easy. The same way that you can look through Magic Johnson's career, Larry Bird's career, Michael Jordan's career, Kobe Bryant's career, Shaquille O'Neal's career, Tim Duncan's career, and you can go through each one of their careers year by year, and you can assess certain seasons where they could have won another MVP award or additional MVP awards. It's okay. The NBA is elite.
I agree. And besides Michael Jordan, no one else ever makes this argument for another player besides LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Those are the only players that I ever hear. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. Kobe Bryant as well. But, besides really those three players, I really don't hear this argument for anybody else. Oh, well, how can we not give LeBron James the MVP? Look at what he's doing at this age and everything like that. And, you have a certain amount of people that say Michael Jordan pretty much deserved the MVP every single year during the 90s. Do I agree with that? No. But it is what it is.
It's not meant to just showcase or highlight one individual player. And let me say this, the NBA needs LeBron James less than they ever needed Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson or Larry Bird.
I'll definitely agree with the Michael Jordan part. I'd have to look at the ratings of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, but that's believable.
They needed Michael Jordan way more than they need LeBron James now, and they still denied him some MVP awards. When Michael Jordan retired, the NBA ratings dipped precipitously. If LeBron James retires tomorrow, they have more than enough stars to carry the NBA. If the NBA Finals this year do not feature LeBron James, they will not miss him, particularly if Boston is able to get healthy and make the Finals. They will not miss LeBron, I promise you that. If it's Houston versus Boston or Golden State versus Boston, the ratings will be just as high.
And I have to agree with you, Rachel. I have to say we need to have 2 awards.
Oh my God! Wait! I'm sorry. He wasn't on camera when he said that. We gotta replay it.
This goes back to when Michael Jordan played. Michael Jordan could have got MVP every single year.
Thank you, sir. Look through Michael Jordan's career year by year. The 86-87 season, he averaged 37 points per game, had over 200 steals, over 100 blocks. First player in NBA history to...
And that brings up another point. I don't think LeBron James has ever had a season like that. Now, a certain amount of people might say, well, that just sounds like you're trying to tear down LeBron James. No, that's just me overall trying to say that Michael Jordan was greater defensively than LeBron James, because he was. And a certain amount of people overall are going to disagree with that. When you take a look at defensive teams, and also who had a Defensive Player of the Year award and who didn't, it's very clear who the greater defensive player was. People overall try to argue that LeBron James is the greater all-around player than Michael Jordan. People try to act like all Michael Jordan could do was score. There are certain seasons where Michael Jordan was averaging 8 assists and 8 rebounds per game. There are certain games, certain streaks where Michael Jordan would average a triple-double, but that's not what he was mainly looking for. LeBron James looks for those things. LeBron James to a certain degree reminds me a lot of Drew Brees. A lot of people overall always love to get hard over Drew Brees and overall basically saying, oh my God, look at his, amount of touchdowns that he has, the amount of yards that he has, and also we can sit here and argue that Drew Brees is the greatest of all time because look at the amount of yards he has and look at the completion percentage that he has and all sort of stuff. Let's also take a look at the amount of attempts that Drew Brees has. Let's also take a look at overall the system that he plays in. It's very important to look at all those things. It is what it is. And it's the same thing with LeBron James. He's a ball dominator. And not only is he a ball dominator when it comes down to the overall, LeBron James just looks for those triple doubles. And he looks for them on purpose because he knows that if he is going to surpass Jordan, that's most likely going to be the way that he's doing it. Not necessarily by championships, at least not most likely. But as of right now, he could catch up to Michael Jordan in championships. Who knows? Because to be honest with you, the only team that I see able to stop them is the Clippers. And I'm not sure if I necessarily trust Kawhi Leonard anymore at this point. So we'll see what happens.
Ever get over 200.
But really, when you take a look at their passing ability, because a certain amount of people overall think it's so ridiculous to compare their passing ability, don't take a look at the amount of assists that they average. Take a look at the assist to turnover ratio. When you take a look at the assist to turnover ratio, LeBron James has a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. When you take a look at Michael Jordan has a 1.9 to 1 assist to turnover ratio. They're basically the same. It is what it is. Larry Bird has a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. Magic Johnson has a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. But people overall, won't bring stuff like that up. It's not necessarily how much more you average. It's how well you are at doing it. It is what it is. But the LeBron James fans don't understand that. Anyway.
Steals and 100 blocks in one season. And that's just on the defensive end. On the offensive end, he averaged 37 points a game. He did not win the MVP award. I'm not even sure if he finished in the top 2. I know Magic Johnson won it that year. I believe Bird might have finished second. Either Bird or Jordan finished second. 1989, Jordan averaged 32.5 points a game, 8 assists, 8 rebounds. Once again, stellar defensive play. 1990, 33.5 points a game, 7 assists, 7 rebounds, shot 54% from the field. Did not get the MVP award. 1993, averaged almost 33 points a game, shot 50% from the field. Did not get the MVP award. That's how that goes, Brown Windhorse. No, we don't make up new awards because we're fanboys.
I agree. And because a certain amount of people are fanboys, overall, they'll try to give new awards or participation trophies. Let me tell you the 3 athletes of today that I see overall get participation trophies like nobody else. I see Serena Williams get participation trophies all the time. I see LeBron James get participation trophies all the time. And I see Aaron Rodgers get participation trophies all the time. I have never seen 3 athletes like that get as many participation trophies and consolation prizes ever in my life. But it is what it is.
It's why fanboys annoy me, because they're always saying some little silly faggoty shit, man.
I agree.
It's obnoxious.
Year for his last 10 years in
Yes,
the league.
that is the point.
And the same thing we're seeing with LeBron. I mean, his MVP, these numbers are crazy. They could be MVP worthy any given year, but he's went up against historic seasons.
Absolutely. Break it down, Paul. Thank you, sir.
You got to understand, 3 years ago when Steph, they won 73 games. You're dealing with his stats and the 73-win team. Last year, Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double. This year,
a 30-point triple-double.
This year, James Harden has just been out of his mind playing. So
absolutely. 31, 9, and 8.
And so, I mean, James...
Now you hear that? 31, 9, and 8. People are trying to act like LeBron James was so much more superior even in every category. Even if he was superior and, decently superior in the rebound and assist category, I don't think it would have mattered. But if you're overall just going to argue blindly that James Harden can just do one thing, well, if you're going by the blind statistics, James Harden overall pretty much almost had the same statistics as LeBron James in the rebound and the assist category. And on top of that, he won 10 plus more games than LeBron James' team did. So what are you bitching for, man? It is what it is.
He's in the conversation every single year. I mean, look at the stats, don't lie. But when you got guys putting up huge stats and putting up more wins, it's hard.
Exactly. And that's the problem. You see, people overall look at LeBron James and they say, well, he averages 1 or 2 more assists in this category, so he must be automatically greater. That's so ridiculous. You have to overall count statistics and you have to count the wins. If James Harden or someone else in the league overall is similar or great statistically, to LeBron James, and they're winning more games significantly, especially like James Harden did that year with 10 plus more victories. You can't argue that James Harden robbed LeBron James of an MVP. That doesn't make any sense. It is what it is.
Have to give it to these other guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. You said it perfectly. And you forgot in 2014, the season that Kevin Durant had was even better than the season that LeBron James had. Kevin Durant had a higher PER, scored more. He was just dynamic that season. He deserved it. That was the Mama Durant is the real MVP season. 2015, Steph Curry won the MVP as he deserved to. Was dynamic, led the league in wins. Golden State came out of nowhere, eventually won the championship. 2016, they had the legendary regular season where they won 73 games. Steph Curry was the first player in NBA history to go 50, 40, 90 and average over 30 points a game. Once again, that was...
Damn. God damn. That's pretty damn impressive. And Stephen Curry is one of my favorite players to watch. But the reason why I find that so impressive, not only is that just impressive in itself, but Steph Curry, man, is 6'3" and weighs 195 pounds soaking wet. I mean, damn. How the hell can you go 50, 40, 90 at that size? I mean, geez, and scoring over 30 points, that's phenomenal. And then he led his team to 73 wins. I don't think a lot of people really realize how great Stephen Curry is. Do I believe that he's greater than a LeBron James or someone else like that? No. But Stephen Curry, in my opinion, would be the second greatest player of the 2010s. And let me tell you this, because this is going to be another video for another time. But in my opinion, Stephen Curry is greater than Kevin Durant is. And a certain amount of people might say, why? Well, in my opinion, impact always triumphs over talent. Kevin Durant is more talented than Stephen Curry. But there's something that Stephen Curry will have that Kevin Durant will never have, and that is leadership and impact. Kevin Durant is very impactful, don't get me wrong. He is one of the greatest weapons in NBA history, but he is the samurai sword. He is not the samurai. If that makes sense, Stephen Curry is the leader. All right? And when it comes down to it, Kevin Durant is a great samurai sword, but he is not the samurai. Kevin Durant is one of the greatest weapons in NBA history. But when it comes down to it overall, he's not the thing. He's not the thing overall that utilizes everybody else. Stephen Curry is the one that makes everything easier for everybody on that team. All right, and Kevin Durant makes things easier as well. That's not what I'm trying to say, but Stephen Curry is the leader. He is the main impactful piece. He is the engine of that team. Anyway, and Stephen Curry had more finals appearances before Kevin Durant before Kevin Durant even got on that team. Stephen Curry won some without Kevin. Kevin never won anything without Steph. So anyway.
was a historic individual season, not even counting the fact that they won 73 games that year. 2017, of course, Russell Westbrook with the 30 points per game and averaging a triple-double. And this year, James Harden putting up unbelievable numbers, over 30 points a game, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, leading the league in regular season victories. So, no consolation prize for Mr. LeBron James. No.
This is what we do in the NBA. We're progressive, and we say that when there's something
Progressive, aka liberal, aka trying to change shit that doesn't really need to be changed. Anyway.
needs to be corrected, we say that
You just want to give LeBron all these awards.
Thank you, sir.
I agree too.
Can't.
Listen,
If I
Paul Pierce is on point with this take.
voted for LeBron for MVP, I would get eviscerated.
in any other year,
No, you wouldn't. Every single year, even when LeBron James doesn't deserve the MVP, oh, he got robbed against Giannis Antetokounmpo. Oh, he got robbed against Derrick Rose. Oh, he got robbed against James Harden. Oh, he got robbed against this. But LeBron James somehow is always getting robbed. It's never his fault in anything. You know. Anyway, to be honest with you, I've never seen, once again, those three athletes, man. Serena Williams, Aaron Rodgers, and with LeBron James, you might as well just throw liability out the window. Because they never overall have to take credit for their losses. They never overall have to take their losses on the chin. But it is what it is. It's always somebody else's fault.
these numbers he put up over the last 3-4 years are MVP. But like I said, he's went against historic seasons.
Absolutely. Once again, the NBA.
And if you don't believe me overall with those three athletes that I just said, who do people always blame with Aaron Rodgers? Oh, it's the defense. Oh, it's the run game. Oh, it's Mike McCarthy. Who is it with LeBron James? Oh, it's the coach. Oh, it's everyone else around him. You know, he doesn't have the team to match up. What is it with Serena Williams? Oh, it's the umpire. You know, he cost her that game. It's always some shit, man. Anyway.
It is a league. They have to market all their stars.
Agreed.
They love the fact that they can spread the MVP award around. They love that. And I've already gone over this before in regards to the season where Michael Jordan did not win MVP. He was far more deserving of claiming that they should create a whole other award for him. Because there was a span and a stretch where the league was literally carried by Michael Jordan. Really starting from about 1988. It even started before he started winning championships, where the league started to be carried by him. Because in the late 80s, after the Celtics fell off, the NBA did not have the Lakers-Celtics rivalry to hang their hat on. When the bad boy Pistons came into prominence, that's when they started to say to themselves, we have to move those guys out the way, one way or the other. Now, of course, the maturation of the Bulls and Michael Jordan coincided with that.
And let me tell you something, those Detroit Pistons, they were a very great team. And for LeBron James, you know, and I'm going to steal Judah's word here, allegedly, when it comes down to the overall, for him allegedly being the most impactful player of all time, you'd think when he has 3 All-Stars, you know, including himself on that 2017 Cavaliers squad, that when he's facing with 4 All-Stars on the Golden State Warriors team, only 4 All-Stars versus 3 All-Stars, you'd think he could at least make that, you know, series to 6 games. But it was only 5. You would think overall that with the San Antonio Spurs back in 2014, when he has 3 All-Stars, including himself, overall that series would at least go 6. You would think overall in 2011, where Dirk Nowitzki overall was the only All-Star on that Dallas Mavericks squad, that him having 3 All-Stars, including himself, that he would have won that series. But he lost all those in dominant well, the 2011 one not necessarily dominant, but you might as well count it as dominant because they weren't supposed to lose that series. You know, for him allegedly being the most impactful player of all time, you know, he certainly has lost certain situations where overall it's not even been competitive, or certain situations where he was never supposed to lose in the first place. But anyway,
there's no doubt that they certainly.
Michael Jordan was taking those Detroit Pistons, which was a super team. He was taking those Detroit Pistons 6 in 7 games. All right, that was a team that at one point in time had like 4 or 5 Hall of Famers on there. You're talking about, or at least all-star caliber players. I mean, you're talking about Isaiah Thomas being on there, Joe Dumars being on there, Bill Laimbeer, who was a 4-time All-Star, on there. All right, you're talking about Dennis Rodman being on there, who was a Hall of Famer, and it was in his prime there. All right, not like a little bit wore down when he came with the Bulls. You're also talking about Adrian Dantley at one point in time being on that team, who was a Hall of Famer. All right, and there was somebody else overall that was a 3-time All-Star that was on that team, but I can't remember his name. Vinnie Johnson, I believe, was also on that team. All right, that was a stacked-ass team, and Michael Jordan was taking those guys 6-7 games with only Scottie Pippen that really was not even fully developed yet. So it is what it is.
Did not want the bad boy Pistons to continue on for a third season, winning a championship. They were just an eyesore. And I say that as a person who appreciated how they played, their intellectual style of play, their great execution on both offense and defense, but they were dirty. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, they were.
And the league really was trying to hang its hat and its new image, its new global brand on Michael Jordan. And people don't understand that the NBA was in a little bit of trouble for that one season after Jordan retired. Ratings really dipped. So they needed Phil Jackson to go to another major franchise and turn them into a dynasty so that they can try to transmit and transmute some of that energy from Chicago to another major market and hope that people forget Michael Jordan. That's another reason why Jordan came back to give the NBA that little bit of a stimulus package after 2001 so that people could get some closure. Because there was no closure to the Jordan era after 98 because they won a championship. People need to see their heroes get defeated and get knocked out. They need to feel like, okay, we know.
Yeah, that way to make sure that it's over. As he said, closure. People are never going to be comfortable if you feel over, if they feel that that person overall has more potential or had more championships in them or overall had more years in them. It kind of reminds me a little bit of George St. Pierre when he retired right after the Michael Bisping fight. Some people overall wanted to see him fight even more. Or Khabib Nurmagomedov right now. You know, Khabib Nurmagomedov apparently is going to retire right now. You know how many people are uncomfortable right now and don't have that closure because they want to see what Khabib Nurmagomedov would have did against a certain amount of the contenders still at 155 or even up at 170. You know? But we may never get to see that. That just happens sometimes.
The narrative is over. They never got that feeling of closure with Michael Jordan after he made the game-winning shot against Utah. So he did the NBA a favor in more ways than one when he came back to play for the Wizards. He helped to provide some closure for his career and for that portion of the NBA mythos. But, I mean, just go through Jordan's seasons, man. There were seasons where he was averaging well over 30 a game, shooting over 50%, still did not win MVPs. So if he can deal with that, so can LeBron James.
But I think the key point here, Paul, I do hear what you're saying, and I hear that a lot. Oh, you guys just want to give LeBron a bunch of awards.
Yeah, because it's true. People are getting tired of you
I agree.
guys and your bullshit.
Awards. You brought up the Michael Jordan point. That is kind of the point. Michael Jordan was a transcendent, dominant player for such a long period, and it wasn't marked by the MVPs.
No, actually, it was marked by the MVPs. Michael won 5 MVPs. That showed.
I agree. Why? I don't know why they're trying to throw that under the bus. He won 5. Anyway.
That was his era. He didn't have to win every season. You had other great players. You had Hakeem Olajuwon. You had Charles Barkley. You had David Robinson. You had Karl Malone. It's okay that they won one. You can give them one. Once again, it's good marketing for the NBA brand that we have great players in various cities. We don't just have to establish a pseudo-monopoly by putting everything just on one player. Now, Jordan was so transcendent that the league could not help but to kind of funnel a lot of their marketing strategies towards him and around him. But whenever you're building a business, you want to make sure that people understand that you have other products that they should, want to pay attention to. Yes, go watch Utah with Karl Malone and John Stockton. Pay attention to Seattle with Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. Check out Houston with Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler.
Let me just bring up that Seattle Supersonics team. And I could bring up the other teams as well. But I especially want to bring up that Seattle Supersonics team. Because if that Seattle Supersonics team was around today, they'd be known as a super team. A certain amount of people don't know how talented the teams were that Michael Jordan faced. And they try overall to tear his teams down and his championships down by trying to say overall that he didn't face anybody. That Seattle Supersonics team, man, they had 4 or 5 people that are averaging in double figures. All right. And 3 of them in high double figures. Like I'm talking about Gary Payton averaging 19 points per game, the defensive player of the year that year. All right. Sean Camp averaging 20-something points per game that year, right? Dead Left Shrimp averaging 17, 18 points per game that year. All right. Sam Perkins averaging about 11 points per game that year, I think. Or maybe it was 15. Hershey Hawkins on that team that year, averaging anywhere from 11 to 15 points per game that year. I can't remember which one it was between those two that was averaging 11 or 15. Bottom line is that team was stacked. All right. And when you take a look at the Phoenix Suns as well in 1993, Charles Barkley averaging 20-something points per game. Dan Marley averaging 15 points per game. I believe maybe even higher. You had Kevin Johnson that was averaging probably about 19 points per game. I could be wrong about that, but I think he was averaging somewhere around there. And there was a couple of other people overall that were averaging double figures. All right? So it is what it is. Those were great teams. They just didn't win because Michael Jordan was in their way. But it is what it is. So when people overall bring up this point of, well, those teams must have not been that great because they could never win championships. You know why they never won championships? Because they had a man named Michael Jordan in their way. And they had a team known as the Chicago Bulls in their way. You know why the LeBron James, other teams are counted as dynasties? Because LeBron James lets them be dynasties. And don't let don't let these fools fool you. They try to argue all the time, oh, well, LeBron James never has help. 2011, he had more than enough help. 2014, he had help. 2017, he had help. All right? Those series were just not competitive because, to be honest with you, LeBron James is not as great as a lot of people try to make him out to be. He is great, but he's not as great as many people try to make him out to be.
Look at Phoenix with Charles Barkley. Hey, take a gander at San Antonio with David Robinson. So on and so forth. You want to spread the wealth around a little bit in regards to attention. And create a dynamic that if the major star decides to leave or has to go for a while, that people don't miss them too much. Once again, when LeBron James is gone, people are not going to miss him like they did Michael Jordan because the league is properly set up with a lot of great young stars. That's why they're marketing Antetokounmpo so much. They want him to be the replacement for LeBron. And LeBron understands that intrinsically.
Yes, they do. And I knew they would eventually. And Giannis is a great player. I just don't know if he's going to win one in Milwaukee. Because Milwaukee just does not have the talent. Well, we'll see what happens.
He understands that his replacements are already being set up. Ben Simmons in Philly, Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee are meant to be the replacements for LeBron James once he's gone.
Let's also not forget Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic took the league by storm, and he overall, it looks like he could be a future triple-double machine. So we'll see what happens.
But LeBron's going to be one of those guys who holds on until he's like 39 years old. I guarantee he's going to be around for a long time.
I agree.
LeBron James has been a dominant player and has been getting better maybe in this last couple of years.
Right.
That is not marked by the MVP. So the system doesn't seem to be set up to sort of recognize who is the best player in the NBA. And again, other leagues have done this. The NFL says who's the best offensive player, who's having the best offensive statistical year.
Well, that's what's known as a red herring. What the NFL does is the NFL gives you an MVP, which is the most valuable player, and then they give you the best offensive player of the year. Why is that?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that award.
Because the NFL is much more positional than the NBA. In the NBA, the players play both offense and defense. And you have lead players or alpha players on every team. So when you start considering who's going to be the MVP of the NBA, you're talking about a LeBron James, a James Harden, a Russell Westbrook, a Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. Those guys basically all play the same role on their team. When you talk about the NFL, you can have a season where one player wins the MVP, like a Adrian Peterson, and then another player wins the Offensive Player of the Year, like a Peyton Manning, in the same season. Why is that? Because even though they both play offense, they play totally different positions. So yes, it is easier to quantify why you should recognize two different guys for both having great seasons. And the NBA is different. Everyone basically is doing similar things when you're the most prominent
Agreed.
player on your team. So you can compare an Antetokounmpo to a LeBron. You can compare a Kevin Durant to LeBron. You can compare a James Harden to a LeBron because they're basically asked to do, if not identical, but very similar things on their team. So that's why it's not necessary for you to have an Offensive Player of the Year award in the
I agree. That's very well said.
NBA, while you would in the NFL.
Here, the NHL, who's got the scoring title, and that's different from who is the best player in the league.
Well, you already have who's got the scoring title in the NBA, Rachel Nichols. How long have you been watching basketball again? Because you're making an ass of yourself right now.
The NBA needs to not even be progressive, catch up on this.
Right.
I mean,
No, they don't need to catch up on anything.
right now,
I think the NBA awards are pretty much perfect the way they are, or at least the MVP.
Hey,
like,
there
James
should
Harden
be
is
two
the best
awards.
player right now.
Thank you, sir. He's the
And that's not saying overall that the MVP has gone to a couple people here and there that I thought maybe didn't deserve it. But every year that I've been pretty much watching it, I never disagreed with the MVP selection. So it is what it is.
best player right now, as in this season. James Harden is the best player in regards to the season that he's having. Is he the best player overall? No, that's LeBron James, because you're weighing in on the context of his entire career. But this season, James Harden is having a better season than LeBron James.
I mean, he's
If
leading
you
the
were
league in
on
scoring.
if you were on the playground and you had to pick one guy to win one game and be in your pickup teams and all the NBA players were there, would you pick James Harden over LeBron James right now?
I can't pick James Harden or LeBron because LeBron is a proven winner.
There we go.
You know, until James gets to that level, I mean, of course it's LeBron.
I agree, because LeBron James is the better overall player. But James is having the better season. James
Agreed, or at least regular season. And that's all the MVP is about.
Harden's having the better season. That's what the conversation is about. Paul Pierce, don't let her confuse you, brother. Don't let her try to obfuscate the argument.
Of course. I mean, I'm going off his track record. He has 3 championships.
There you go.
The
This is
MVP.
not a participation trophy. This isn't just let's give out more awards because we feel bad.
I mean, that's a very... you can't necessarily go by that. Because let's take a look at the NFL, for example. Let's say Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. I mean, what? They went like 6-10 not too long ago. Just a couple of seasons ago. I believe Mike McCarthy's last season. Well, Aaron Rodgers overall is greater than I think a Russell Wilson. But let's say Russell Wilson overall went 12-4 that season. I think they made the playoffs that season, but I can't remember. I believe they did. But when it comes down to the overall, Russell Wilson probably had a better season than Aaron Rodgers that season. But Aaron Rodgers is a more complete player than Russell Wilson, so Aaron Rodgers would deserve the MVP more than Russell Wilson that year, even though his team went 6-10 and Russell Wilson's team went 12-4. That's the reason why you can't judge things like that, because it would just be asinine. But it is what it is.
No, actually, that's exactly what this is. That's exactly what this is. It's a let's give out more awards because we feel bad. And the only thing that you're going to do, if you create an award called the best player, is you're going to make...
Now, some people might say, well, LeBron James has never really had a season like that. Well, just a couple seasons ago, he did not make the playoffs with the Lakers. Did LeBron James deserve to win the MVP that year? So it is what it is.
The MVP feel in it.
Now, you can still argue that LeBron James was the most complete player in the league. Debatably, at the time, I think it would have been Kawhi. But LeBron James has once again proven to be now the greatest player. Well, not the greatest player, I should say. Although he is the greatest player that's playing today. But the best player once again. Because he won the championship. You know. But it is what it is.
You're going to make the MVP feel like he won a consolation prize. And you don't want to do that.
Bad. This is, hey, these are two different things here. We are talking about two different things. To lump them all into one award doesn't make sense.
I just feel like I defend my votes for Steve Nash for when he won MVP. I still feel good about those. Even
There's a lot of people that believe that Steve Nash did not deserve that second MVP. Now, I would have to do more research on that. But the research that I have done on it overall, I understand. And of course... the main ones that claim overall that they got robbed were the Kobe Bryant fans, but it is what it is. I also heard a certain amount of people say that Shaq got robbed, but it is what it is.
no people.
And Steve Nash deserved those awards, especially the first one. I don't know about the second one. The first one he deserved, because he was extremely impactful in that D'Antoni system. And that Phoenix Suns team in the mid-2000s is probably one of the top 5 most influential.
And this is also another thing, because people overall love to go by this. Well, this person had a greater team. Well, we can't always go by that. We can't always go by overall, well, this person would have been just as successful as this person had he been on the same talented team. That's a very risky thing to do, because then all of a sudden, we can claim that Allen Iverson is greater than, say, Magic Johnson. Well, if Allen Iverson had the talent around that Magic Johnson had, I bet you Allen Iverson would be the one to 5 championships, overall, and multiple MVPs. We can sit here and allege that. But that's the reason why it's risky, because then all of a sudden, the order has to be way different. So we can't just do that overall, with people that you like or that you're a fanboy of, just because you want them to be higher on the list than they actually deserve to be. We have to rank things objectively and logically and off of what happened instead of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Once again, I do not rank things off of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I rank things off of actual substance. So it is what it is.
NBA teams in the history of the NBA. They were able to turn the tide from a lot of that ugly, super defensive, super physical basketball that was really starting to destroy the NBA in the early 2000s, where you were having a whole bunch of 75 to 72 ball games and nobody was watching.
Say this. 10 years from now, when people say, how did LeBron not win an MVP between 2013 and 2018, I'm not going to have an answer.
Well, you should have an answer.
I agree, because other people have more stellar seasons and it really ain't that hard. But anyway.
Because where did you get the answers? That you go year by year and you establish why each person won the MVP, and that's not very difficult to do.
Yes, you are, because you're going to look into the camera and say...
I think we may...
I'm a fat bastard.
We may need 2 awards.
God damn.
I'm knocking them down one by one, people. Zach Lowe, you're next. All right, John.
Paul Pierce, you started off strong, but you ended weak, brother. You let her confound you with that weak-ass NFL argument, which really holds no water. But anyway, we'll see what happens. We'll see if the NBA relents and creates a whole other award to help LeBron James deal with his transition from being a possible championship contending player to a player who's just going to put up big numbers in the regular season and not win championships. But anyway, peace.
And that's really about it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. I thought that was a very good video. Judah always brings up very, very good points, and I pretty much agree with him. But I just thought that I would do that because there's always certain people overall that get into this conversation. I get into this conversation with one of my very good friends a lot. So I decided overall that I would give all the answers in this video. But that's really about it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to y'all later.